If you only judge Catholicism by what you see in Western Europe or North America, the story seems simple. Quiet churches, empty pews, fewer young people showing up, and from that surface view, it is easy to assume that the Catholic Church is slowly stepping into decline. That is the narrative repeated everywhere, again and again, until it starts to sound like the only truth. But there is another reality unfolding at the same time, almost invisible to many global headlines. While some regions are slowing down, other parts of the world are experiencing a completely different movement where Catholicism is not only surviving, but expanding with unexpected strength. Growth is happening in places that were never considered traditional centers of Christianity, reshaping the direction of the Church in real time. What makes this shift even more powerful is how it is happening. Not through political influence or large institutional campaigns, but through ordinary life, families passing on faith to children, young people discovering belief in the middle of cultural pressure, small communities growing quietly inside environments where Catholics are often a minority. These are not dramatic moments, but together they form something far bigger than most people realize. Today, we are stepping into 5 countries where Catholicism is growing faster than expected. Places where faith is not fading into history, but actively moving forward inside different cultures, different languages, and different challenges. What you are about to see is not just data. It is a global shift in belief that is rewriting the map of the Catholic world. Stay with us and subscribe to the channel for more deep Catholic stories that reveal what is really happening beyond the headlines. Number 1. South Korea. South Korea opens this journey in a way few would expect because it sits at the intersection of rapid technology, intense urban life, and deep cultural tradition. In most modern societies, as education levels rise and cities expand, religion tends to fade into the background. Yet here, the trajectory moves in the opposite direction, as Catholicism continues to gain ground inside one of the most advanced and competitive environments in Asia. Instead of beginning with statistics, consider the atmosphere inside Seoul on a weekday evening. Office towers are still glowing, subway platforms are packed, and young professionals are moving through a system that rarely slows down. In the middle of that pace, Catholic parishes are not becoming quieter. They are receiving steady waves of adult baptisms, many of them from people who arrive not out of tradition, but after long periods of searching for meaning in a high-pressure society. Over the past decades, the Catholic population has expanded significantly, reaching millions of faithful, even as other religious groups struggle with aging membership and declining participation. The roots of this growth trace back not to foreign influence alone, but to a uniquely intellectual origin. Early encounters with Christianity in Korea were shaped by scholars who studied texts through philosophy and science, forming communities before formal missionary structures were fully established. This created a foundation where Catholicism was not seen as superstition, but as a disciplined system of thought and moral clarity. That perception still echoes today, especially among students, medical professionals, engineers, and urban middle-class communities who often approach faith through reflection rather than inheritance. At the same time, the Church in South Korea carries a historical memory that continues to shape its identity. During periods of political repression in the 20th century, church spaces in Seoul became safe havens for voices calling for justice and human dignity. Religious leaders stood alongside students and workers in moments of tension, and this built a lasting reputation that extends beyond faith boundaries. Even many non-Catholic citizens continue to view the Church as a moral anchor in national history. In the present day, Catholicism in South Korea is not simply a private belief system. It has become a response to a fast-moving society marked by pressure, competition, and emotional exhaustion. In that environment, silence inside chapels, structured liturgy, and moments of reflection during Eucharistic adoration offer something increasingly rare: stillness. And it is within that stillness that many young adults encounter faith for the first time in a deeply personal way. The global Church has also recognized this momentum. The decision to bring World Youth Day to Seoul in 2027 signals more than an event. It reflects a recognition of a living, growing Catholic presence in a country that many once assumed would move away from religion entirely. Number 2. Vietnam. Leaving the intensity of South Korea behind, the story moves into Southeast Asia, where Vietnam reveals a very different pattern of Catholic growth. On the surface, Catholics remain a minority. Yet beneath that modest figure is a church that consistently stands out for its resilience, strong community life, and an unusually high level of vocations that continues to draw attention across the global Catholic world. The clearest sign of this strength appears in its seminaries. While many regions face declining numbers and aging clergy, Vietnam moves in the opposite direction. Seminaries regularly receive large numbers of applicants, often requiring highly selective admission processes. Year after year, new priests are ordained in significant numbers, while many young men and women enter religious life, creating a continuous cycle of growth that remains stable over time. At the heart of this development is the family. Catholic faith in Vietnam is not limited to Sunday practice, but is deeply woven into daily life. In many households, especially outside major cities, prayer becomes a shared rhythm across generations, where parents and children gather together in the evening before the day ends. This quiet repetition shapes belief in a natural way, forming identity through lived experience rather than instruction alone. This family foundation extends into parish life, where Catholic communities function as active and interconnected networks. A parish is not only a place of worship, but a center of ongoing activity, including youth groups, choirs, charitable service, and catechetical formation. These structures are consistently active throughout the week, responding to real social and spiritual needs, and creating a strong sense of belonging that goes beyond liturgical gatherings. Underlying all of this is a historical memory shaped by perseverance. The Catholic identity in Vietnam has been formed through periods of hardship, where faith was preserved through endurance rather than ease. The memory of martyrs continues to influence how belief is lived today, producing a form of commitment that is steady, disciplined, and resilient, even in a rapidly changing modern society. In recent years, this strength has begun to extend globally. Vietnamese priests and religious communities are now present in many parts of the world, serving in dioceses across Europe, North America, and mission territories in Africa, where local vocations are limited. In these places, they are not only filling practical shortages, but also bringing renewed energy to parish life, reflecting how a locally rooted church has become an important contributor to the global Catholic mission. Number 3. Indonesia. Indonesia begins with a question that immediately sets the tension of this story. What does Catholic life look like in the world's largest Muslim-majority nation, where religious identity is deeply woven into public and private life? In a country of more than 275 million people, Catholics form a small minority, yet their presence tells a story that is far more dynamic than numbers alone suggest, shaped by resilience, creativity, and a steady but quiet expansion across different islands and communities. The daily reality for many Catholic communities is marked by distance and persistence. In some rural and remote regions, attending Mass is not a simple weekly routine, but a journey that can require hours of travel across rivers, mountains, or open sea. In certain areas, the construction and maintenance of churches involves navigating complex administrative procedures, reflecting the sensitivity of religious space in public life. Even within this environment, Catholic communities continue to gather, often in modest buildings that function as both spiritual centers and social anchors, maintaining a rhythm of worship that persists despite physical and social challenges. Yet instead of weakening faith, these pressures have shaped a different kind of strength, especially among younger generations. In many Catholic communities across Indonesia, youth movements have become one of the most active forces of renewal. Prayer gatherings, charismatic worship nights, and pilgrimage events draw large participation, creating a visible expression of faith that feels both energetic and deeply personal. In regions such as Flores and Timor, seminaries continue to receive strong interest from young men who see religious life not as escape from society, but as a committed response to it. even when it means stepping away from economic comfort or conventional career paths. At the institutional level, the Church in Indonesia has developed a long-term approach centered on engagement rather than separation. One of the most influential channels has been education. Catholic schools and universities are widely recognized for academic quality and discipline, attracting students from diverse religious backgrounds, including many Muslim families who value the stability and character formation these institutions provide. While these schools remain fully respectful of religious freedom, the environment they create often leaves a lasting impression on students, shaping how they understand values such as service, compassion, and community responsibility, and in some cases, leading them to explore Christianity later in life. Another unexpected point of connection appears through Marian devotion. In Islamic tradition, Mary holds a respected and honored place as a figure of purity and virtue, which has created a unique bridge of cultural and spiritual respect in Indonesia. Catholic Marian shrines, often located in quiet natural settings, such as forests or hills, attract not only Catholic pilgrims, but also Muslim visitors who approach them with reverence. In places like Larantuka, on the island of Flores, Holy Week celebrations, centered on the sorrowful journey of Mary, have grown into deeply rooted cultural events, where even non-Catholic neighbors participate by helping with logistics and sharing in the atmosphere of communal respect. This shared reverence has turned faith expression into a space of cultural harmony rather than separation. Across these layers of experience, Indonesian Catholicism grows not through dominance, but through presence, education, and spiritual encounter. It reflects a form of expansion that is quiet in tone, but profound in impact, where faith continues to grow inside complexity rather than outside it. Number 4. Democratic Republic of the Congo. The story now moves into the heart of Africa, where the global center of Catholic growth is no longer theoretical, but visible in raw demographic scale. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Catholicism is not a marginal presence. It is a defining force within national life, shaping culture, education, and social identity in ways that few regions in the world can match. Instead of starting with numbers on paper, the reality becomes clearer in daily life across cities like Kinshasa and beyond. Church attendance is not treated as routine obligation, but as a collective expression of faith that gathers entire communities together in sound, movement, and celebration. In many parishes, worship unfolds with long processions, rhythmic music, and extended participation from both clergy and laypeople, creating a liturgical atmosphere that feels deeply connected to local identity. Within this environment, Catholicism is not simply practiced. It is lived as a public expression of belonging that continues to attract younger generations who see faith as part of cultural pride rather than inherited duty. As this cultural expression deepens, a unique form of liturgical life has developed that reflects the African context directly. In certain regions, the Church has embraced an enculturated form of worship known as the Zaire Rite, officially recognized within the broader Roman tradition. This allows elements such as movement, drumming, and communal expression to become part of the Eucharistic celebration, not as decoration, but as an integrated language of prayer. Within this setting, Mass is experienced as something dynamic and participatory, where worship engages the whole person, and where faith is expressed through both silence and rhythm. This approach has played a significant role in sustaining strong youth participation, especially in urban centers where cultural identity and religious life are closely intertwined. However, the strength of Catholicism in the Congo cannot be understood only through worship. It is equally rooted in the Church's role as a stabilizing institution within a nation marked by prolonged instability. Over decades of conflict, political uncertainty, and economic disruption, many state structures have struggled to function consistently. In that space, the Church has taken on responsibilities that extend far beyond spiritual care. Catholic institutions manage a large share of schools and healthcare services across the country, often becoming the primary access point for education and medical support in both rural and urban regions. In remote areas especially, missionaries and religious sisters remain among the few consistent presences, providing long-term support to vulnerable communities. Alongside this social role, the Catholic Bishops' Conference in the Congo has emerged as one of the most trusted civic voices in the country. Bishops and church leaders frequently participate in national dialogue, advocate for peaceful political processes, and monitor electoral integrity. Their presence often serves as a stabilizing influence during periods of tension, offering mediation where institutional trust is limited. In addition, they have consistently spoken out on issues related to human dignity and resource exploitation, especially in relation to the country's vast natural wealth. Within this complex environment, the reason people turn to the church becomes deeply human. For many, Catholicism represents more than tradition. It offers practical support in education and healthcare, moral guidance in times of uncertainty, and a trusted voice in moments when public systems feel fragile. It is within this combination of spiritual life and social responsibility that the Church in the Democratic Republic of the Congo continues to grow, not only in numbers, but in influence that reaches into the core of national life. Number 5. Nigeria. Nigeria closes this journey in West Africa with a reality that challenges many global assumptions about faith in the modern world. Often described by scholars as one of the most dynamic centers of Catholic life in the 21st century, this nation stands at the intersection of rapid population growth, deep religious diversity, and an extraordinary intensity of belief that continues to reshape expectations about where the future of the Church is heading. The first layer of this story unfolds in everyday worship. Across cities and rural regions, Sunday Mass is not treated as a secondary activity, but as a defining moment of communal identity. Churches are filled early, and by the time liturgy begins, many parishes are already overflowing with families, young people, and entire communities gathered together. This consistent participation is not driven by obligation alone, but by a deeply embedded understanding that faith is central to life itself. In some regions, participation rates remain remarkably high compared to global standards, reflecting a level of commitment that places communal worship at the center of weekly rhythm rather than the margin of it. However, the strength of this participation becomes even more striking when placed against the realities of daily life in Nigeria. The country's religious landscape is shaped by a complex and sometimes tense coexistence between different faith communities, with significant variations between regions. Within this environment, Catholic communities continue to grow and maintain strong internal cohesion, often gathering in large numbers despite logistical challenges or environmental difficulties. Even in moments of uncertainty, parish life remains active, sustained by a strong sense of belonging that connects faith not only to worship, but to identity and resilience. At the same time, this vitality exists alongside serious external pressures. In certain regions, Christians face threats from extremist violence and instability that have deeply affected local communities. Churches have been damaged, religious leaders have faced serious risks, and families have endured painful disruptions. Yet within this reality, a pattern emerges that defies expectation. Rather than withdrawing, many communities respond by returning to worship with even greater resolve. Sunday gatherings often become powerful expressions of shared endurance, where faith is not only professed but publicly reaffirmed in the face of fear and loss. This resilience is closely tied to the spiritual culture that has developed within Nigerian Catholicism. Over time, the Church has become a place where traditional Catholic doctrine and local expressions of worship coexist in a dynamic and energetic form. Prayer meetings, charismatic movements, and vibrant liturgical celebrations have created a form of Catholic life that is both deeply rooted in global Church teaching and strongly shaped by African cultural expression. This combination has proven especially powerful among younger generations, many of whom find in the Church a space where faith feels both intellectually grounded and emotionally alive. From this spiritual intensity emerges one of the most significant developments in the global Church today: the growth of vocations. Seminaries across Nigeria are consistently filled with candidates for the priesthood and religious life, reflecting a sustained openness to long-term commitment. As a result, Nigeria has become one of the leading sources of priests and religious missionaries serving across the world. From Europe to North America and beyond, Nigerian clergy are increasingly present in dioceses facing shortages, contributing not only manpower, but also a renewed sense of missionary energy. In this way, Nigeria stands not simply as a growing Catholic population, but as a source of spiritual momentum within the global church. It represents a form of Catholic vitality that is shaped by perseverance, communal strength, and a lived experience of faith that continues to expand far beyond its own borders. Across this journey through 5 nations, a clearer picture begins to emerge. From the intellectual depth of South Korea, the extraordinary vocation strength of Vietnam, the courageous cultural harmony of Indonesia, the living spiritual energy of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and the resilient faith of Nigeria, one reality stands above all others. The Catholic Church is not fading. It is relocating its center of vitality toward places where faith is lived with intensity, sacrifice, and daily commitment. What connects these regions is not wealth or global influence, but something far more essential. In each place, the gospel takes root where it is lived sincerely, shaped by local culture, and carried by communities willing to endure challenges while serving others. It is within these environments that Catholicism continues to grow strongest, not as an institution protected by power, but as a living faith expressed through ordinary lives. As this global picture comes into focus, the question now turns to you. Which of these stories left the deepest impression on you, and which country revealed something new about the future of the Church? Share your thoughts in the comments so we can continue this conversation together. And if you want to keep exploring powerful stories about the Catholic Church across cultures and continents, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us on the next journey as we continue uncovering the living story of faith around the world.